Part 2 of Season 3 of The Witcher is here, and it's safe to say that it was short, but it was definitely sweet. With only 3 episodes making it up, I do always wonder, what's the point in splitting a season into parts, other than to get an extra month of our subscription on the platform? Sometimes it's justified, but I don't know if it was with this. With an ending that was left on a massive cliffhanger, and the continent well and truly being in disarray, let's recap, break down, and explain all that there was to take away from this second part of the season. So let's get into it. Here is The Witcher Season 3 Part 2, Ending Explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. Oh, and if you enjoy the video, then do me a solid and hit subscribe. Thanks. As there were only 3 episodes, I'll break this video down by each of the individual episodes, as there was quite a lot to unpack from each of them as they almost served as their own entities. Episode 6. I actually thought that this was the best episode in the entire season, Part 1 and Part 2. We pick back up from where Part 1 left off, where we saw that Dijkstra's plan to try and take over the Brotherhood and Aretuza was working in a successful manner. However, once in a room with them all, including Vilgefortz, we saw that Vilgefortz and Tissaia essentially unleashed hell upon everybody there, but it ultimately revealed that Vilgefortz was behind the larger, widespread attack that was to come. This also meant that the elves became present and a full-blown battle commenced. A battle that was pretty epic and was so enjoyable to watch. We saw many major characters meet their demise as the Brotherhood, sorcerers and mages all worked as one in order to try and take down the elves, which were working alongside Ymir, and also the troops which were alongside King Vizimir. It was pretty epic. There was a moment where Stregobor came out and totally bossed it in his final moments, which was small but something that I quite liked. He utilized fire magic, something which would have a large importance moving forward in the following 2 episodes. There was also an epic moment where we saw Tissaia summoned Alzur's thunder by using Torlara, which allowed her to wipe out most of the people that were there. The main things to take away from this episode was the fact that Istrid was kidnapped and transported with the Book of Monoliths by Vilgefortz, as he said that he would see him soon, and we also saw a battle occur between Geralt and Vilgefortz on the beach. One where Vilgefortz was essentially playing with Geralt, and he wounded him to a point where it looked as though he was on the verge of death, meaning that he was unsuccessful in his attempt to take him down, which meant that Ciri was still in grave danger. With regards to Ciri, we saw that she met Yennefer and fled to Torlara, and utilized the power and energy that was within it, which ultimately transported her to Korath, the place in which we saw the second episode occur. One thing I do think with this episode is the fact that they did Rience dirty. He had about 5 seconds of screen time and was killed instantly, which did surprise me, considering he was a force to be reckoned with in Part 1, so I was a bit disappointed with that. Episode 7. This was an episode that most certainly felt the slowest out of them all to begin with, but I actually felt like the longer it went on, the more it improved, because you really felt the disorientated state that Ciri was in whilst she was in Korath. She was slowly losing her mind after being transported there after absorbing the power from Torlara. She awoke and it was just red sands and the beaming sun. This episode was important for a number of different reasons, but one main thing that I felt like it was trying to convey was something that many individuals could be familiar with from the Bible, the temptation of Christ, where Jesus was in the desert for 40 days and 40 nights and faced temptation from the devil. This is something that I felt ran true and alongside what we saw happening with Ciri in this episode. We saw that she was wandering aimlessly for a countless amount of days and nights alone, despite the fact that she wasn't actually alone. She had visions of the past from her mother, a creature from beneath the ground, and also was tempted by an individual called Falka to adopt the forbidden fire magic in order to save Little Horse after it was wounded, the unicorn that most likely represented an angel. I believe in this instance, Falka was the equivalent of the devil when linking it up to the biblical story. Ciri adopted the fire magic in order to save Little Horse, however in doing so, it caused the unicorn to flee and run away, and neither Ciri or us ever saw it again. Falka mentioned that those who were afraid of what you are dead weight, so Little Horse saw the darkness that was now present within her, something which we would later go on to see in the final episode. Whilst adopting the fire magic, Ciri stated that she relinquished her powers upon feeling the all-consuming nature of it. However, it's in the name. She was most likely not able to rid herself of the fire magic that was present within her. Hence why the final thing that we saw her say as she closed out the season was, "My name is Falka," because that ever-present darkness, once utilized, is something that will be hard to get rid of. So I suppose that leaves the question on who is Falka. Well, Falka is an individual who led a rebellion across Redania and Temeria during the 1150s. This uprising led her to kill her father, her father's wife, and cause mass devastation across the kingdoms. She's not a good soul like Ciri, hence why we saw her trying to tempt her and persuade her to channel her inner darkness, and was saying things about how nobody was there for her, and that Geralt and Yennefer were just using her as a pawn in their own game. This was an episode that most definitely paved the way for Ciri's eventual fate, which occurred in the season finale. There was a powerful line which I think is foreshadowing what's to come in season 4, which was, "This war is nothing like what Geralt will unleash onto this world to find his daughter." And I thought that was a pretty epic line. We know how powerful Geralt is, and in a healed state, we're definitely going to see him unleashing that power. This episode finished up with Ciri being found by some individuals, and it looked like they were going to be taking her to Nilfgaard to be with Ymir. Episode 8. I'm not going to lie here, I was a little disappointed with this episode as a season finale. It felt more like a setup for season 4, rather than giving us something epic to finish off the season with, but hey, it was still an important one. We spent this episode spread evenly across Aretuza, then with Geralt, and then finally with Ciri. Within Aretuza, we saw that Tissaia couldn't handle the fact that she was betrayed by Vilgefortz, and with the destruction of Aretuza and the mages being in disarray and without a true leader, she ultimately ended things for herself. She felt she let everybody down and believed that she had to pay for that. This was after seeing what we saw in the earlier part of season 3, what Vilgefortz had done to the girls that went missing. She felt that it was her responsibility for allowing Vilgefortz to come in and to infiltrate from within, and that she was no longer worthy of being where she stood. The story on Aretuza very much felt like Yennefer was going to be taking the lead of the sorcerers, and was going to be focusing on ensuring that the world is a safe place for Ciri, rather than going out and finding her. That was something that she was relying on Geralt to go and do. Geralt was recovering from his wounds that he had from taking on Vilgefortz and losing, and with Yennefer paying him a visit, we saw that she was able to heal him at a slightly more rapid pace than what was occurring. From there, it was all about him training to become the prolific warrior that everybody knew him as, something which we saw that he was able to do. He heard the rumours that Ciri was on her way to Nilfgaard and was setting off to ensure that he would be able to get her back. There was another epic line in this episode that I thought was extremely powerful, and it summed up Geralt's intentions. Jaskier said, "I've been telling him for months that he needs to think about himself and not just Ciri, but I was wrong. Protecting her, protecting his family, that's who he is." This was something that became ever present right at the end when we saw that he took out all of the guards that were preventing the passageway through the gate, showing that he believes in good and that he was looking to set off to Nilfgaard in order to find and bring Ciri home. There was a moment right at the end where we saw Emperor Ymir welcoming Ciri into the kingdom, but it turned out that it was in fact the deranged woman from the earlier parts of season 3 who believed that she was Ciri. We know that Vilgefortz was behind the brainwashing of her, so I feel this most likely means that he's planning on infiltrating Ymir from within, showing that he's hungry for even more power. Another poignant moment in the finale was that King Vizimir was killed, and it was arranged by Philippa. This ultimately meant that Prince Radovid became king, and this was done so that they could manipulate him like a puppet. He's most definitely an easier individual to control, so they will be able to have more influence with that, just like what they always wanted. The final thing that we saw in the season finale was that Ciri was being held captive by the people that found her on the edge of the desert, and she was held captive alongside an individual called Kaylee, somebody who was part of the rats. We saw that the rats broke in and defeated all of the individuals that were there, and after Ciri brutally killed one of them, when she was asked her name, she revealed her identity to be Falka, showing that the darkness was ever present within her, and that all-consuming fire magic had taken a hold of her and warped her personality, because she felt a power like no other. So we're most definitely going to be seeing a different side to the character as we move forward in season 4. Overall review. I thought season 3 part 2 was pretty good. With it only being 3 episodes, personally, I don't think we should have been made to wait a month for it to be released, as there weren't groundbreaking revelations, nor did the original finale in part 1 feel like a mid-season finale. I think it definitely would have flown better as 8 episodes all being released at once. I could have actually done with it being 5 episodes in part 2, because it felt like the moment we were in the world we were out of it straight away. Henry Cavill as Geralt is just too good. He should stay as the character, as he is Geralt in many people's eyes and delivers the role so well. I thought the episode, which was pretty much led by Ciri, was a really good one, and showcased Freya Allan's acting abilities really well, as she really did lead that episode with emotion and conviction. I do feel as though there wasn't much resolution at the end of the season, which was a shame. In fact, it felt like there was no resolution whatsoever, which left a feeling of wanting more in my stomach and mind. With us most likely having to wait a very long time for Season 4 due to all of the strikes that are taking place as well, I do wish we had have gotten a bit more, but it was still an enjoyable ride. Episode 6 was definitely my favourite, and that battle was one of the best ones that I've seen on TV for a while, so there's that positive to take away from it. 3 episodes wasn't enough. It was short but sweet, so I'll wait in anticipation to see where the show goes from here. So, there you have it. The Witcher Season 3 Part 2 ending explained. What did you think of Part 2? Leave a comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.